All right, you can't hate yourself into a better body. And we'll kick this off with one question. When was the last time you were genuinely proud of yourself physically? Not like okay with where you are, actually proud of it, right? Most of you can't remember, and that's exactly why you found this. The reason that you're stuck has nothing to do with your willpower, has nothing to do with, any of it. You've just been trying to hate yourself into a certain goal that you want. And that's never worked, not once, not for anybody ever, right? The biggest thing is the war, you're already losing it before you even start the next dieting attempt, right? And when we look at this, most people aren't lazy, they're exhausted, right? There's a massive difference. They're exhausted from trying, exhausted from caring for such a long time that it's actually become like a painful thing for them, right? They wake up, they look at the person in the mirror, and instead of seeing like an amazing, successful person, they see a problem that needs to be fixed, right? And then every week, typically, beginning of the week, they go to war again with themselves to try to crack this problem once and for all, but they kind of already know that that's not gonna happen, right? And then we have this guilt spiral. Friday night, we eat off the plan because, we don't want to piss anybody else off. Like, we don't want any of our friends to think we're weird. We get guilted by our husband, our wife, our kids, our friends. So like we make a decision. Not only that, but a lot of times, working out and trying to eat clean or whatever it is that you're doing, when you're not seeing a result for that, it's effectively, like I've said before, going to work and not getting paid for it. Like, why would you continually do that? Right? Then Saturday morning rolls around, diet guilt hits, like, man, why'd I do that? I'm such a POS, like I can't believe that I keep making these same mistakes. You feel like a failure as a human, and it's all over food, right? So effectively you have destroyed your relationship with food, right? So you punish yourself, you starve, overtrain, really talk terribly to yourself, and you blow up the whole weekend sometimes and go the completely opposite direction and just say, hey, it doesn't matter, I'll start again on Monday, right? Sunday night, disgusted, and you swear Monday, everything's gonna be different again, and you just constantly are in this cycle that just resets and resets and resets, but like you hate it, you don't wanna be in there, right? And it's not a nutrition problem, it's completely a psychological trap, right? So if you use the expression that I always say, nobody's ever failed a diet for macros, right? It's always psychology is the reason, right? There's nobody walking around going, man, if I just found the right macro numbers, like everything would fall into place. It is taking the right macro numbers, the right program, and then applying them and breaking through a bunch of different psychological barriers that you have created and replicated multiple times in the past, and stepping outside that cycle and doing something different, right? And then, if you don't know this already, the fitness industry is built around this trap, right? Most coaches don't want to teach you how to actually fix yourselves. They want long-term customers. Gyms want long-term customers. Like, nobody is adamantly invested in you solving this problem. That is the truth. Everybody wants to help you solve it just enough so you stick around, but not actually how to solve it long-term, right? Some more questions for you. How many times have you called yourself lazy, disgusting, or weak over a single meal, right? Or a slip up or whatever you want to call it. So you have to look at yourself and say, hey, like the way that I'm looking at myself, the way I'm talking to myself, like would I talk to my kids that way, right? Would I say this to my best friend? So, and we all know the answer to that. So then it becomes, why is it okay for you to talk to yourself like that? Why is it all right for you to tell yourself that like you're such a screw up, you're a loser, I can't believe I keep doing this to myself, right? We're talking in such, finality that like we have currently permanently messed up, and there's nothing that we can do to fix it, right? So overall, the system was designed to keep you coming back, failing over and over and over, right? And then we take that, just like I was a chronic dieter since I was like 10 years old for the first 20 years of my life. The diet industry profits off of your consistent failure in this area, right? It's, repeated failure that feeds the system. Every time you do a 1,200 calorie diet, try to stay there long term, you can't. Every time you do an extreme challenge, a juice cleanse, a 6-week shred, they're all predictable timed failures, right? Even if you make some kind of progress, there is a definitive end to this. Nobody's teaching you the 20-year lifestyle plan, right? It's always like a 6-week kind of plan, and you have to understand that these aren't failures of your character or who you are as a person. This is a broken approach that you are trying, and you're just repeatedly trying to drive the car that breaks down, every mile, and then waiting for it to start back up, and then hoping it's going to be different this time, doing the exact same thing, right? So how do we end up in this situation? Undereating, overtraining, double the punishment on ourselves, right? Like when people don't have another plan, but they really want a result, they will continually hammer the same thing that they think is going to work, or really what they want to work, because they don't have another plan. So like, I really like to look at people like that as people who refuse to accept failure, right? They're going to call themselves failures. People come in and that I talk to, my clients, they typically view themselves as failures. I've tried so many times, I just can't figure it out. I'm like, hey, I think you're amazing. A lot of people in society would have quit by now, but you want this result so much, you're so dialed in on getting it, you just don't have the right approach yet. That's it, bottom line. Like, we'll fix this, not an issue. All right, undereating, overtraining, what happens? Metabolism slows, cortisol rises, a main stress hormone, sleep gets worse, you have energy crashes throughout the day, you're irritable, checked out, you're white knuckling every meal, like just waiting for the time that you're supposed to eat. And then eventually you break because you're human and you're not a machine who's going to just keep hitting it no matter what. And then what do? You shame yourself, you tell yourself that you're weak, right? But it's all a lie. The plan that you're operating off of it was never meant to be successful. It was meant to be a 6-week shred. Again, it wasn't the 20-year lifestyle plan, right? That's the plan you need to be on. And we tell ourselves, people say it to me all the time on like initial consults and stuff, or strategy calls, like, I just got to try harder. This time I'm going to try harder. And I'm like, have you done the same thing like 14 times already? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so you're just going to try? So like, that's a big thing in my community, my group and stuff. The word try, I hate that word. And I say hate because it's truly how I feel about it. Trying is not a plan. Trying is what people do when they're not trying to solve I said trying myself, but not trying to actually solve a problem, right? They are trying to feel like they're solving a problem. Like, man, I really messed this up for the 17th time, but I'm going to try harder next time. Trying is not a plan, right? If you want to solve something, you come up with a systematic approach. Where the last plan broke down, how we're going to build a bridge from that plan that broke down to the success that we've always wanted, right? That's what we need to do. If trying harder was the answer, you'd already be there, right? You've been trying harder for years. Direction is the problem. You don't actually know what to do to solve this problem, and you have to come to terms with it. For some reason, nobody would beat their head against a wall as much as we do in fitness and nutrition. Most people would, try something in any other realm, trying to fix their car, trying to fix their house, trying to fix their roof, right? They would try something very minimally and then just call somebody who knows how to do it. But for some reason, when it comes to health and nutrition, people will do this for 20 years and keep going, I know what to do. I know what to do. I just got to do it. I'm just not doing it. And that's the downfall of everything, because when you're 20 years old and you just ate clean for a little bit, but your body was running so efficiently, and it was just the fact that you were going to McDonald's 3 times a day that was making you gain weight, and you stopped that and fixed it. Like, people have this belief in their mind, I know what to do. I just got to eat clean like I did when I was 20, but now I'm 50. Right? Completely different plan, different body, different hormones, different mindset, different situational stuff going on in your life. It's not going to work like that. You need the right strategy, discipline. Like when you have the right strategy, discipline will become almost automatic, because you'll have clarity on what will actually work. You'll see results in a pretty fast pace here. So like, you'll start to build momentum, and like, what you thought you needed, I got to be disciplined, right? Which means my current plan that isn't working at all, that I'm so frustrated with, discipline means I need to just follow it no matter what, right? And we use that example of showing up to work if you're not getting paid. Haven't been paid in 3 months, you don't even know if you're gonna get paid. Would you keep going to work? Eventually, even the best employees are gonna stop showing up. Same kind of thing, right? So discipline has to be built around a plan that you actually believe will work, right? So quick client story: busy professional, nurse, executive, first responder, it doesn't matter like what field. I've seen it in all different capacities, but they've tried every diet that's imaginable. I've seen them get all the way down to like eating 800 calories a week, right? A day, hours of cardio, they've done everything that they could possibly do like more cardio, all the different types of workouts, the classes, eat 800 calories a day, telling me they're not hungry. And what happened? Like they end up worse, metabolically worse. Their body is now structured to a maintenance level that's running at 800 calories a day, no matter what they do. 800 calories a day with all this cardio built in, and they're still not losing weight. Emotionally wrecked, psychologically, just so done about like, where do I go from here? Because now they're out of options. There is no down, there's only back up. And that's even scarier than, going on the way down because you have some kind of belief that it's actually gonna work, So really, it just comes down to like that person in that situation. I completely understand because I've been there myself, not all the way down to 800 calories as a male, but I've been close to it at times and way back. And I know the struggle that it is to be sitting there just thinking like, what could I possibly do? Having people tell me that I was good the way that I am. Like I was training jujitsu a lot, I was working out a lot. So I looked relatively decent, but I always said the same thing. For the amount of effort I'm putting in, I should look better. I don't understand like what I am missing. People are like trying to tell me that I'm crazy, just accept where you're at, bro. There's something wrong with you. Like, for me, I knew there was something more for me, and I knew it wasn't, deep down, I knew it wasn't gonna come from really pushing the gas pedal more, but I didn't have another strategy, so I pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, right? So if guilt doesn't work and punishment doesn't work and shaming yourself doesn't work, like what does, right? So real change doesn't start from self-hatred, right? It starts from a decision, like a real one, not I hate how I look, so I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to fix that. Not I'm disgusted with myself. I can't believe I let myself get here, so I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, right? Those are reactions, that's not a decision. A real decision sounds like I'm gonna take ownership. I'm choosing like who I wanna become, not because I hate where I'm at, but because I respect myself enough. I demand more, I deserve more out of this life, and I want something else. And there's nothing wrong with having different goals and aspirations than what somebody else might want or where you're at currently. That's a good thing. We're pursuing success. Nobody stays motivated eating broccoli and doing cardio when nothing's happening, right? Like we talked about. That's not a character flaw, that's reality, right? Like you're not going to keep doing something, investing time, effort when it gets hard if you're not seeing anything for this effort, because you're always going to have that deep down thought, even if you have a coach and it's not working, right? The coach is, just follow the process or whatever, right? But if it's not working for you, there needs to be tweaks. That's why I make systematic adjustments to the diet and the nutrition every single week. I've never seen a coach do that. But for me, I want to constantly have my hands on the nutrition and changing it for the clients every single week so we can consistently dial in the result that we want, typically weight loss week by week. And then the same thing on the metabolic repair side, right? When somebody sees visible changes in like week 1, week 2, week 3, like that builds momentum in their brain very fast, right? So what they think was impossible, right? Even if they looked at my page and like they even signed up with me because they're just so like, man, this looks amazing. Like I'm sure it works. But they always believe in their mind that they're a unicorn and nothing will work for them. So it's such a cool thing to see that mindset shift that happens in such an early amount of time when all of a sudden, like you don't need to trust the process for 6 months to get some kind of result, right? You should see systematic results if we're moving in the right direction, something. Blood work results, fat loss, measurements, how you feel, something. We should be seeing something systematically week by week, right? Belief fuels everything after that, right? And when you start winning physically, energy improves, clothes fit better, what you see in the mirror changes, it bleeds into your entire life, right? And this is my main point of everything I do in my business. This is not a diet. This is systematic personal development for people, day by day, week by week. Like look back 6 months from now, and it's not about losing 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 50 pounds. It is about reacquiring your drive for success, your ability and your belief in yourself that you can set a goal and achieve that. A goal that 99% of the population is gonna fail at. A goal that like you don't even believe you can obtain, right? And then what happens when you obtain that goal that you don't think is even possible? Your mind opens up from here to like this, right? To where now, what else is possible in life? If I can do this and nobody around me can do this, I start to believe in myself again, right? I start to trust my own word. I start to show up differently, like at work, around my kids, to my significant other, because I feel great in my body, right? I don't feel like a failure anymore. I feel like I'm winning on a daily basis, right? That's why I always talk about, driving the Lamborghini. That's cool, right? Like when you pull out of the driveway or if you go in the garage and like look at it or something, I'm assuming it's in a garage. But when this is your Lamborghini, it is an all day thing. It's like you're living inside the car, right? Like, especially for people like us who have been on the other side and been the out of shape person for a long period of time and wanted something different. Once you obtain it, there is not a better feeling. And it's not some kind of like unhealthy relationship with the way that you look. It is personal success, right? If I was building a business and I said I want to make $10 million, people wouldn't go, that's unhealthy, bro. Like, you shouldn't try to make that much money. Like, just live your life. They'd be like, that's amazing. Like, good for you. You're so driven. But if I want to change what this is, people will hate me for it because it's a reflection to them of how they feel about themselves, right? If we're even in a friend group and I say, hey, I'm not eating or drinking tonight, people feel bad because now they know that I'm trying to do something better, that there's an option that they aren't pursuing. And now they have to shame me back down to their level so they don't have to change. If I hold this long enough, you'll always see it. The same shit talking people will all of a sudden become like the most inquisitive on what you're doing. So what does this coach actually got you doing, right? And I end up coaching everybody's friends. That's just like how this works out. But it's a huge identity shift for you when you start winning and you haven't won in a long time. So there is a version of you, like once this happens, there's a version of you that you're proud of, right? There's a gap currently between the person that you are and the person that you want to be, right? And most people spend their entire life upset, hating that gap, right? They hate that gap. They look in the mirror, they see the gap. Everybody around them knows about the gap. And we typically spend a lot of time, like trying to make that decision, right? We live in this period of like, sitting in the gap, at one side of it, just being like, there's just no way I'm going to get to this other side. I don't think it's for me. Maybe it's genetics, maybe it's hormones, maybe I'm just not that person, right? And those people typically, if they sit at the beginning of the gap for so long, they'll start to be the most negative people to the people who are trying to get to the other side still. Bro, like, why are you even doing that, man? Like, nobody ever ends up like being able to maintain it long term. Like, it's not sustainable. But the truth is this: you have to fight that systematic belief, the belief that like there's no way to actually do it, right? Just keep being the person who refuses to fail, right? Keep trying different plans, whether it's this plan, another plan, it doesn't matter. Keep trying to put actionable effort to something new. Something new will motivate you, right? Motivation equals like, your drive to do something. And then when the results come in, because you finally, connected with something that will actually work, all of a sudden you're going to be hooked there like long enough to see the real results, right? And then hopefully this is a plan like mine that has the clarity and the systems to really guide you all the way to long-term sustainment, right? So you can actually maintain this long-term and it not be a yo-yo type of diet, right? When you have a real personalized plan to you, right? Clarity like will hit you immediately. And that's what I always talk about, right? Clarity is the most important thing because when anything gets hard, because the thing is this, whether you get on my plan or any other plan, at the beginning, think of the cycle that you've been in 14 times, right? That you did this. Even on my plan, you're jumping right into the middle of that cycle, right? You're jumping right into it. The difference is going to be like, do we run the whole cycle or do we exit at a different point and go into a different cycle of something, right? That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to go into the cycle because we have no choice. It's just the way our brain works. We get motivated. It's a new diet. We're going to do it, right? And then we have to get in there and we have to have clarity. We have to have a systematic approach. We have to see results we haven't seen before. And that will give us direction to a new, way that we handle this situation instead of going around and around in the cycle that we hate. The certainty that you'll get when you have clarity on where this program is going long term, it's such a calming thing, right? People say, oh, I'm going to trust the process, right? For most people, that means, you're trusting like in something you don't have any idea what's happening. Oh, I'm just trusting the process. When people say that, it usually means like nothing's happening, but I'm just trusting that it will. Trusting the process means, Matt, I know exactly what we're doing. I understand we're in like a cut phase. I understand we're in like a sustainment phase, a reverse diet, metabolic repair phase, a secondary fat loss phase. They understand what we're doing and they understand why what we're doing is going to work. That is the clarity that we're looking for, right? And a great plan will remove anxiety on day one. You'll come in happy, right? Should you be a little overwhelmed? Yeah, this shouldn't be some kind of like little tweaked plan, hey, don't eat bread till 2 o'clock. And you're like, oh, that's it? That's all I gotta do? Or take all your carbs out, don't eat anything. That's a stupid plan. It should be something to where like you learn a lot of science, you learn a lot of nutrition, you understand more stuff about food, working out, about your body, your hormones, blood work. Like you need to learn stuff when you're investing into something. There should be a tangible benefit that you take with you. All right. So ultimately when we're doing this, motivation is great, right? But we are really in this for like the leadership, right? We want to become the person that solves this problem. We want to show up differently. We want to be someone who gets things done, right? People who change permanently aren't the most motivated, right? They are the best leaders, they're actually the best leaders like of themselves, right? They're not going to be like, oh, like the cheerleaders. They're not going to be that, right? They treat their health like a professional commitment, not a hobby, right? So one of the main things that I tell my clients all the time is you don't need to be perfect, right? Because perfect usually goes perfect, and then some kind of a breakdown. We just need to be consistent. Stay in the process long enough, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, stay in the process long enough to look back and have massive change that you didn't think was possible, right? 12 weeks is cool. You can lose a lot of weight in 12 weeks, as you guys know. You could also gain it back in the next 12 weeks if you don't have any type of a structured plan and you don't have clarity on like what you're doing and where you're going. So, you need to hold this long enough so that you understand how to do this correctly, repair your metabolism, and not gain the weight back long term, right? People that are like real leaders and people that really get the result that they want, they don't wait for the perfect Monday. They don't skip things because they're tired. They show up because they decided to. So like, if you're not that person, it doesn't matter. It's a skill. You have to build that skill. It's not something that you're born with. It's not something you have or you don't. Like you have to find that inside yourself and create it by virtue of all the things that we were talking about above. All right. So remember, the gym is supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be something fun. And I always correct all my clients, my friends, on the fact you're talking about the gym. It's not a punishment for what you ate. It's not something that you talk about, I'd rather go now so I can just get it done, right? That sounds terrible. You are constantly feeding negative, words into your brain about what you're doing. Oh, I gotta take myself to the gym. I don't even want to go. Make it something you love, right? Make it something you feel amazing that you can do. So many people that are like, disabled that can't even work out. So like whatever you need to motivate yourself, you have to understand it's an investment into who you're becoming. The person that you see 6 months from now, you should have like an actual picture of that person, the decisions they make, how they feel, how they talk. That's a version of you that you want to become, right? Future project that out and then invest your time, resources, effort, everything into creating yourself into that version of you that you want to be. Think of it like nutrition not being a restriction, right? It's the fact that, you're just dialed in on a plan, you're fueling your body correctly. It's respect for you, right? Like, in any other realm, you wouldn't do stuff just because it felt good, right? And I talk a lot about this too. Like you ask a lot of my clients, they won't even drink. Yeah, like I don't want to drink, like alcohol is bad for you, blah, this and that. They would never do drugs in a million years. But like when it comes to food, which is, systematically killing more people in society right now than drugs are and alcohol combined, right? By virtue of heart disease, diabetes, all this kind of stuff. They don't care. They have no constraints on what they eat. And, they just treat their body like a friggin' playground when it comes to food, right? So it's just a mindset shift, add the same respect, that you have around all these other things that are bad if they're utilized the wrong way. Like if you took 20 Tylenol, you'll die, something like that. You would never do that. So treat food the same way, right? Like you can use it for what you want it for. You can even enjoy it. But at the same time, don't abuse it or else you're going to suffer the consequences of it, right? When that reframe clicks, everything starts to shift, right? And then bottom line is this, right? If you need to hear this, then I need to say it, but you can't keep waiting for the right moment, right? You can't keep saying you're going to start when your kids are older, after the summer, things slow down, when life gets easier. That moment, is never coming. Life doesn't slow down. It just gets more complicated, especially as your kids get older. The question isn't whether things will ever be perfect. The question is if you're going to lead yourself through the imperfect times and create an actual lifestyle from this, right? Can you be the person that creates an amazing story that you tell other people of how you started this, where you will empower them. Your story, I'm real big on the fact that your story will lead other people, just like mine has, just like my clients has. You can be an inspiration to yourself and to other people by virtue of you just taking the leap and actually doing something, right? There's never going to be a good time. And it's not a silly thing that you're trying to do. That's probably, if I impress anything upon you and you're watching this entire video, you need to care about this because you do. So stop acting like you don't. Treat this like something that is a hobby for you and really push in on getting the result you want. All right, so let's talk about why having the right plan changes everything, right? Cookie cutter diets consistently fail, right? They weren't built for your life or anybody's life or even a real life, right? Your schedule, your metabolism, your past history with dieting, your psychology, psychological attachments to food, none of it is built around that. A juice cleanse, right? You're going to drink juice for the rest of your life. You're not. Anything that has a definitive end to it, you should not be doing. That is not a structured program, right? A personalized plan meets you actually where you are, right? So pretty much in the middle, right? So we're going to build stuff around what your life looks like. At the same time, you're going to start prioritizing yourself a little bit, like an hour a day. Prioritize yourself a little bit more and start pushing into the goals you actually want. And then as things change from where they're at, they go to a different direction, right? That's what we're looking for. And the big thing about what coaching actually does for you, right? The difference between a plan and a coach, everybody, especially people that have failed a lot of times at dieting, they don't want more failure. They don't want money attached to failure, right? So they'll go for the cheat plan, the ChatGPT plan, some kind of app or whatever. The truth is a real coach, like what we are doing, me and my team, we see the potential of who you're becoming far before you ever will, right? And we'll motivate you to that. We've been there. We've been in the trenches. We've done it ourselves. Everybody that's on my team is a first responder. Everybody that's on my team has come through my program as a client originally and loved the process, had phenomenal results. That's what this is about, right? People leading you that, have done the thing that you're trying to do and have cracked the code on it, right? When you want to quit, having somebody tell you and walk you through, and remind you what's happened every other time that you did that and the cycle that we're in, right? Motivating you, making adjustments for you to better build this to your life, and then external belief buys time until your internal belief catches up, right? We'll motivate you until you can motivate yourself, right? It's kind of like the, carry you until you can walk kind of thing. The goal here is for you to be able to do the thing that you want to do better than you were ever able to do it on your own and to end up getting the result that you want. This isn't built around providing a plan for you. This isn't built around giving you workouts. This is built around taking you from point A where you're at to the final point that you want, that we discussed, that is this goal. I take that back. The goal is to take you from where you're at and to hit that goal that you have, blow through it, and then hit 16 more goals after it. That is what we're trying to do here. And then a reminder that physical confidence, it's not vanity, right? When you feel good in your body, your energy, strength, your pride, your self-confidence, it doesn't make you shallow. It's not about, it's about being fully alive and present in your body of the person you are and loving it, right? If there was something about you that you didn't like, you would put systematic effort into fixing it, right? That's all we're doing, right? And we're completing the circle of success. So many people I coach are amazing parents, amazing friends, amazing employees, amazing spouses, but they don't like the way that they look, right? So the circle of success, it has this one area that they haven't been able to crack, and we help them solve it. That's pretty much it, right? So we'll circle back to the first question that I asked you, right? When was the last time you were proud of yourself physically, right? New question. How would your life change if the answer was every single day, every second of the day, every time I walk by a mirror, like that? Think like that. How do you show up for your kids? How do you show up for your career, right? How do you show up for your relationships? How do you show up for yourself? It's not a fantasy, right? This is this is what happens when you stop fighting yourself and start leading yourself to where you actually want to go. Stop accepting where you're at. Start pushing towards the goals that you want, right? Stop telling your kids to follow through on things, be consistent, be direct, have direction, be motivated when you're not showing them the path, right? Your kids see you every day more than they see anybody else, hopefully. And you're not leading the example for them. So do the hard things, teach them, the right way to do this, right? And kind of in the closing here, right? You're not a failed dieter. You're someone who has been given the wrong tools. Nobody's taught you how to do this correctly, right? The moment that you get them, right? Once you get the right plan and the results start coming, you're gonna recognize right away, this is different. That's the one joke I always make, right? I want you to come in here. I want you to see what we're doing here. And I want to see the moment where you're like, oh, like this is actually something different than I thought it was going to be. This is different than stuff I've seen before, right? And you're not going to change just physically. You're going to change every aspect of your entire frigging life, right? That's what we do here at TMP or the Moceri Project. That's my last name, by the way. You'd be surprised how many clients like don't know that it's my last name until they're like 8 weeks into the program. You know, bottom line, that's what we do in this program here. If you're ready for it, I want to help you get there, right? Whether it's just following my page and looking at the daily stuff, right? Like that's not going to get you where you want to be, but that is the first step, right? Get engaged. You know, one of the coolest aspects of my program is the community that I have. Currently 300 overall, 140, 150 active clients currently. You know, a huge community of people that are all moving in the same direction. I vet people very well on consultation calls. I turn down probably 40%, 40% of the people, not turn them down, sorry, but like they're just not ready for like what we're doing, and I give them direction in a different way. I don't try to force people in here. I'm not selling people. The goal is to figure out where you're at, what you've done in the past, and if I can help you crack this code from having a conversation with you, I will absolutely tell you, hey, I think I have the answer for you, and then we'll run this to the moon and back, and I'll turn you into one of my transformations that I post, right? That makes everybody go, ooh, wow, or one of these charts that I post that shows, you know, the exact way that the structure is supposed to work on chronic dieters, like long term, right? So if you actually want to see more about like what I'm talking about and how the actual plan works to solve these problems and hit 5 areas at the same time, to make massive change that you would typically need 5 experts to crack into at the same time, go on my Instagram. You can do it here, I might not see it, but go on my Instagram, the Moceri Project, comment the word secret on any of my reels. You'll automatically get sent a 5-minute video that breaks down exactly like how this works and how we've been able to do this with, at this point, approaching 1,000 people, you know, coaching them one-on-one. I don't run group programs. I don't run like challenges or anything. This is one-on-one coaching, and we've done it with almost 1,000 people, right? I have female, I have male coaches that will hit any situation that we need flawlessly and, you know, get you the result ultimately that you want. So yeah, if you want to watch the video, comment the word secret. There's a little bit application below it. If you want to jump on a strategy call with me just to see what's possible, I would love for that. But yeah, nothing changes until we change it. So, you know, any day of the week, of the month, or of the year, you can wake up and start living a completely different life than where you're at right now.